Welcome to Good Life. I'm Dean Wilson. I'd encourage you to stop whatever you're doing and watch this interview. Ralph DeQuebec is with me. He's a veteran. He lost his legs in Afghanistan. His story is incredible and inspiring, and I think you'll get a lot from it. So Ralph DeQuebec on The Good Life next. Welcome to Good Life. I'm Dean Wilson. So glad you joined us. You can always go to goodlifetelevision.org where you can see all the interviews from this year. It's been an amazing year. And there are also power clips there that we kind of find some of the powerful moments, the gold in those interviews. And so you can watch the full interviews, you can watch the power clips at goodlifetelevision.org. I'm really excited about my guest today. Ralph DeQuebec is with me. Ralph, welcome.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I got to interview your brother, as you know, Jose, and we had a great time talking about his story, but also kind of your story and you guys as brothers. But I want to kind of reset for people who maybe didn't see that interview, kind of they can understand what we're talking about. You and Jose are brothers.
Correct. And
you kind of had these different roads that you traveled. And then you kind of came back together,
right?
And now you've launched something called We Are All One Story, which I want to get into in a little bit. But maybe start telling people just kind of about your upbringing, kind of your journey from childhood up.
You know, I was born and raised in Los Angeles. My biological father left when I was about 5 years old. I still remember it to the day it happened. You know what I mean?
Really?
I remember the day. And so he left, and you know, throughout my whole adolescence, like I was trying to identify with things that I can do to kind of get him back, you know what I mean? And so my mom eventually got in another relationship, and the guy that she was seeing was abusive, he's alcoholic. So then I was exposed to not only, you know, someone leaving me, now I'm exposed to someone beating on me. And
wow.
So I didn't realize, at that time I didn't understand, like I didn't know what having a father felt like, but I knew he wasn't supposed to leave me. And the second one was I knew he wasn't supposed to beat me. And so, you know, I get to the age of like 13 years old, and my mom finds another man. She ends up marrying him, and I call him Dad to this day. But super strict, disciplinarian, authoritarian, and, you know, it was his way or the highway. And, you know, so as a kid, I'm thinking the same thing. I'm like, man, my dad shouldn't just be giving me rules. You know what I mean? He should be being a dad, showing me love, showing me how to do all this, that, and the other. And so that was a pretty big struggle for me. And it wasn't until like I found sports where I was talking to my mom the other day. I was like, it wasn't until I found sports that I identified what coaches were telling kids at that time, and all the things that they were teaching them like it like resonated within me. You know, they were talking about teamwork, dedication, sacrifice, put the team ahead of yourself, and those kind of things. And so, you know, I was a decision away from joining a gang, and luckily I found football because that literally gave me the outlet to express who I wanted to be as a person.
Wow.
And so, you know, I played football for 4 years in high school, went to college. You know, I didn't take all the right classes that I should have taken, and so I didn't set myself up for success. And so I had to go to a community college and take remedial classes and stuff like that. And so during that time, I was like in this rat race. I was going to school, I was working a job, and I was trying to make a football team running track and field. And so I just broke up with a girlfriend, and I was like, you know what, like this isn't for me. Like I want more out of life at that time. And one of the, like shortly thereafter or shortly before, you know, it was 9/11 occurred. And I remember going into a study hall at 6 o'clock in the morning. You know, I was with my girlfriend at the time and her sister, and I go in and you look at the TV and you see the Twin Towers on fire. And like I said, there was just something that said, hey, you know, this isn't it. Let's pack it all up and let's figure out the next thing. And so 6 months later, I was joining the Marine Corps.
Wow.
Yep.
Spurred by 9/11. I mean,
yeah, definitely. You know, growing up, the environment that I grew up, I tell people all the time, I was like, I didn't have like these nationalistic feelings or, you know, nationalism or any of that. It was more like, you know, where's my next meal going to come from? Who do I have to avoid so I'm not, you know, getting into a confrontation? And, you know, it was just those day-to-day things, you know, survival kind of thoughts, you know. So the last thing that was on my mind was the American flag or who the president was and all that. And so it was definitely, when I saw that, it definitely compelled me to be, and it said, hey, you got to do something bigger than yourself.
Wow.
Yeah.
So let's walk kind of through that. So you're 19,
Mm-hmm.
you enlist. Where do you go from there?
So I enlist and I go straight to boot camp. And, beautiful thing about boot camp is everybody says, it's super tough and, you go through hell for that portion. But I also felt like, they did it for a purpose and they built us up into the person that I wanted to be, because they embedded all the things that already resonated within me, teamwork, sacrifice, dedication, all those things. And so they break you down and then all of a sudden they say, here, let's reintroduce this back to you. But now you got 90 other guys that are in the same predicament that you are, and then that bond just grows. And so after graduating boot camp, like I couldn't have been prouder to call myself a Marine. And then, going in, and I was in for about another 2 years, and I was just like, that urge came back, and I was like, you got to do something more, you got to do something more, you got to do something more. I hadn't been to combat, I hadn't been to Iraq or Afghanistan, and so I made the decision to change over into the civilian, what civilians would call the bomb squad. In the military, we call it EOD. And so, again, found myself in another situation. Now, it's not only are you doing yourself a favor by trying to do your hardest and be a team player and sacrifice and dedication and all that. Now it's a matter of life and death, because now you're working with explosives, and now someone else's life also matters. So it nails that in, you know what I mean? Like,
wow.
You can't nail that in any harder. And so, I joined the EOD unit, and I was surrounded by guys that just were like me. To the T, they cared about their brothers, they cared about the mission, they cared about saving people's lives, and it was home for me.
Wow.
That was done deal. I was in love with my job.
Wow.
Yeah.
And tell us about the day you lost your legs.
Well, prior to losing my legs, I had actually lost a teammate, and so a lot of people don't realize that part of my story is that, I had pulled in this young kid. First EOD deployment, coming to work up. He only had about 4 months to train with me before we were stepping off to Afghanistan. And so, but I can see it in his eyes, the love. He had the same, when I'm looking at him, I'm looking in the mirror. I was like, there's no other place this person wants to be, but right here doing this job. And, I'm getting goosebumps right now when I talk about it, because it's absolutely true. And so we had happened to go on a mission, and one of our guys in our element, it was Afghani, he turned and he fired on us. And so he killed my teammate JP Hewling, and he shot my corpsman, and that was a pretty tragic event, I would say. And then for me, that was the first time me experiencing that within my team, and having to go up and perform all the life-saving steps, and literally see him faint, come back, and it was the extremely humbling experience, because you literally can see life in your hands. You know what I mean? Like, you can see, it's literally in my hands. And so it's extremely humbling. And so, getting him off the X and getting him onto the plane and going to where he had to go, that ride back from where we were doing that to our main base or our operating post, it was probably about a 4-hour drive, and it was the most quiet, humbling, dark space, I guess. It was just hard to explain. And so I got about a month off of time. It was like 3 to 4 weeks about off time. And my boss comes up to me and he's like, Ralph, hey, it's totally up to you. If you want to work, you can work. If you don't want to work and you just want to teach classes or whatnot, we're fine with that too. We just want to know where your head's at. And without a hesitation, I was like, no, I'm ready to go. Like, we got to go do this. The mission goes on. Had it been me and I would have passed away, like, I would have wanted JP to jump in on another team and continue to do what it is that he loves. And so we made that decision, and they paired me up with another Marine, and we were going on a 4-day mission. That's literally the entailment. I've been in hundreds of them before, and so it was literally gather all your belongings, all the gear that you would need to be able to function for a 96-hour period of time. So that's water, food, bullets, explosives, clothes, batteries, you name it. Anything that you need to be successful in combat, you carried it on your back. And so we were on our mission on day 4. What we're thinking is, okay, we have all this extra stuff, extra bullets. I mean, we were in firefights for the the whole time we were there, from day 1 that we dropped in to day 4.
What
And
year is this now?
This is 2012.
Okay.
Yeah, this is 2012, June, I would say around June 18th through the 20th time frame.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we're taking contact all day, and we're literally thrown into this area because they want us to stabilize the area so a bigger Marine force can come in. And so in order to do that, they send a small element in, figure out the lay of the land, get all the reconnaissance down, and they're the ones fighting the Taliban at that time. Like, we're giving them the foothold. We're saying, hey, we're here to fight. Our buddies are coming, but we're going to take it to you right now. And so that was the purpose of that mission. And so on day 4, you know, we were hooking and jabbing, doing our thing, you know, everything we were asked to do. And on the last day, we had been taking contact from a house that was probably 250 meters away from us. And so we were like, you know, before we leave, we're going to go take it to them. And so 2 o'clock in the morning, we set up for a patrol, and we say, hey, we're going to step off at 2, and we're going to go after this house. And sure enough, that's what we do. We took about 20 Afghan soldiers, and we took an element of about 8 U.S. personnel, which at that time I was operating with Special Forces, Army Special Forces, and then I had a Navy amphibious corpsman, also special operations, and then I had myself and my teammate. And so it was a very small element with an extended group of Afghanis. And so as soon as they step out, like I said, Dean, they were only 250 meters away. So as we're dispersed out, that first guy is already almost to where he needs to be and stopping till the tail end catches up. And so as they're punching out, we probably got out 50 meters before over the radio I heard, hey, we got an IED up here. An IED is an explosive ordnance, like explosive, improvised explosive device. And so in civilian terms, it's a bomb, a man-made bomb. And so, like I said, been in that situation before, nothing heightening, nothing out of the ordinary. Get on the radio, roger that, we're heading down. Brandon, let's go. Put them off in the safe area, continue to start walking down. And, you know, as I'm walking down, I have guys on my right that are literally, there's a river running the same direction that I'm walking, and there's guys that are parked about every 6, they're socially distanced. They're about 6 feet apart. You know what I mean?
Ahead of their time.
They're doing it. Hey, we've been doing it for a long time. And so, yeah, so they're sat there, you know, 6 feet apart. And I'm like walking down, and I see a building coming in. It's kind of like giving me what they call a choke point. So I have to walk this path that's right here. And so as I'm getting there, you know, space is from opening to closing, and now it's like, okay, space is getting restricted. My spidey sense or my goosebumps or whatever start popping up, and I'm like, all right, if I was a bad guy, I would put a bomb right here. Stop, I'm not going anywhere. There's a bomb right here. You know, this is my mental thought process. I'm like, there's a bomb right here. All right, let's back up, start pulling out tools, get on the radio. I said, hey guys, you know, I think the red direction that I'm passing in is a perfect place to place an IED. I know there's an IED here. I was like, I'm gonna get down and just check out the area. Give me a couple minutes and I'll get back on the horn and let you guys know what's going on. So sure enough, I pull out my tools, start going to work, and I have this hook that's about 8 feet long, and it has a pole 8 feet long, and it has a hook on the end. And so what we were doing is we were throwing it past where we thought the bomb was, and we were scraping it back to us. And so anything in between that distance, we would pull up, whether it was wires or the actual device. So I did that a couple times, no results. And then I was like, okay, I know there's something here, I gotta do something else, you know what I mean? And I had a metal detector, so I had wanded everything to look for metal, didn't find anything. And so the last step was getting on my hands and knees. And so I got on my hands and knees, and I literally started sweeping dirt away with my fingers. And like I said, I've done this before. It's not something that's out of the ordinary. So I'm sweeping this path. And so I'm sweeping a path about 6 feet wide to give me an avenue where I can egress and come back out. And so as I'm sweeping, you know, I'm not getting anywhere, and now I'm starting to it's starting to build on me. Like, is there really something here? Is there not something here? Listen to what your gut's telling you. Continue to keep working. So as I'm working, like, I'm getting ready to get on the horn. I'm kind of like looking at my surroundings now. I'm like, okay, this bridge here is pretty stout. This building's walls is pretty stout. I was like, A, do we have enough explosives? B, I really don't want anybody to be in any harm's way. And C, I don't have an answer yet, right? And so this mental thought process is going in my head, and as soon as I do that, like, I get on one knee, I have one knee out, and I get up put one foot up, and I'm getting on the radio to tell them like, hey guys, maybe we need to rethink this plan a little bit. Give me a couple minutes. But before I can finish that, like I'm on my radio and I look up and I see a guy walking towards me. And it was 2 o'clock in the morning, so we were operating in night vision goggles. So it's pitch black outside. So got these goggles on and I look up and I see the reflection of his eyes. So the moonlight reflection into his eyes is like the same thing you would do with your phone when you put your phone in the sun and it gives you the glare on the ground. It was just shot out open and it was so bright. And I was like, in that split second, I was thinking to myself, oh man, this is a bad situation, right? I put my hand out and I tell him to stop. But before I could finish the P, boom, he had stepped on the device. And at that moment, I go flying in the air, and I'm the fastest I've ever moved in my life. Weightless, and I'm thinking to myself, what the F just happened, right? Oh my God. I feel myself getting closer to the sky, like literally, that's how fast I'm traveling. Like I'm like, oh my God, it's there. I hit a wall. I hit the wall and bounce off the wall, and then I go into the hole that was created by the explosives. So the explosives buried, it goes, all the dirt goes out, and now you have a shot hole. So I fall into the shot hole, and immediately I try to kick out of it. You know, as if you were falling, you would want to like kick your legs out, and I can't. I'm not in pain. There's a whole lot of adrenaline going on. There's a whole lot of confusion, but as far as pain, I didn't feel any pain. But I just knew I couldn't use my legs. And so at that moment, I'm Doc, I'm hit. Sean, I'm hit. And, you know, what seemed like 8 seconds later, like I was getting pulled out of that hole like a rag doll, you know. And I feel like I'm flailing in the wind. You know, my buddies have got me, and they dragged me another 150 meters to where we initially were when I took off, and they start working on me. And you know, at that moment, like I still didn't have fear. There was no fear in my heart. Like there was a little bit of confusion, but at the same time, like this situation wasn't new to me, one, and two, like I knew how important it was for all the guys that are around me to make sure that they stayed calm too. So I was joking with them. I was making jokes with them, and you know, they had put tourniquets on my legs to stop the bleeding. My rifle that I had on me when the explosion went off hit me here and then ripped through my hand here. So this hand was like hanging on skin. And so not only were my like legs all jacked up, so was my hand. So I was pretty bad off shape. And so I can see it in the guys, they can see it in me. Like I'm trying to bring them up and they're trying to bring me up as well, but you can see it's not a good situation to be in. And so you know, as soon as those thoughts started setting in my head, I told myself, hey, just make it onto the helicopter. If you make it on the helicopter, everything will be fine. And so these guys, you know, they're giving me IVs, morphine, you know, they're talking to me, they're trying to keep me relaxed. And oh, by the way, we still have to maintain security because now they know where we are. You know, the Taliban heard that explosion go off. They know they got one of us. So if we wanted to fight or they wanted to fight, now was the time to come get us. And so all that's going on in the background. And for me, you know, I was thirsty at that time. I started having labored breathing, but I just remember, you know, laying there on the ground and not having like life flash before my eyes, but a lot of questions came to me, you know what I mean? Like, and it gave me the feeling of like I wasn't done with life just yet. So at that moment, you know, I'm like, God, whatever you can do, if you allow me to live, I'll do your work, you know, for the rest of my life. And so just repeating that over and over and over and over, I was like, I know I have so much more to give with my life. Just give me the opportunity. Just give me the opportunity. And so sure enough, you know, in the distance you hear bird starts coming, it lands, my guys pick me up and I'm like in a blanket. They're picking me up and they're walking me across and, you know, telling me they love me and, you know, just saying our goodbyes for them. And, you know, they lay me down. I see that I'm in a helicopter that's not like all the other helicopters that I've been in with, like, you know, guns and, you know, personnel. It was medical. There's a lot of medical equipment in there. And so I'm like looking around and then I look up as I'm laying down and a guy comes over me and he has his chrome visor on and I can see my reflection in his visor. And in that instant, it was like, boom, my eyes closed and I was done. And it wasn't until 5 weeks later that I woke up and I realized, A, I lost my legs, B, my hands are all jacked up, and C, I had to figure it all out again. You know what I mean? And it was instantly like that. You know, I had no idea how drastically my life would change. And it wasn't until I woke up in that hospital bed that I was like, this is it. And then I had to work, even to this day, trying to figure that out.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was the name of your friend who died?
J.P. Hewling.
J.P. Hewling.
Yeah.
So you had that experience, and then you had this experience, and you woke up 5 weeks after?
Yeah, after I was blown up. Yeah, since I was drinking water right after I got blown up, I had developed pneumonia, and so I couldn't travel. So the usual pattern is, you know, if you're injured in Afghanistan, you go to a hospital in Afghanistan, a military hospital in Afghanistan. They get you to where you can travel a longer distance, and then once they get you stable to that point, then you travel to Germany. And then Germany, you're at another military hospital, but they have a lot more things that they can work with. And so I was in Germany. Usually you're only in Germany for 3 to 4 days, and then they ship you off, and then you either go to like Walter Reed, which is one of the best, obviously now we know, one of the best hospitals in the world, and you know, or San Diego, same thing, another great military medical hospital. And so, but for me, since I had pneumonia, I couldn't travel, so I was stuck in that facility for 4 weeks or whatnot. And so they flew my family out. They flew my girlfriend at the time out. They literally didn't think I was going to make it. And so, and that's, I mean, that's the seriousness of it. You know, even now when I look back, I'm like, oh, I made it through it, so it's no big deal. But no, like, you could have died.
Yeah.
It's that serious. And so, yeah, that's.
That's 8 years ago.
Yep.
Yep. And so, tell us about the 8 years. And I mean, I'm sure that this had to have been difficult, really
For sure.
difficult.
I try to explain it like, you know, that last deployment was supposed to be the time of our lives. Like we were literally doing the job that we love to do. We train every single day, super confident in our abilities, super confident in our team, super confident in our platoon. Everything, we knew that when we hit the dirt, we were going to hit the ground running. And then to have someone young, you know, younger than myself, that I can literally be in his shoes and feel the same emotions and same feelings. Like I was like, this is his time to be where I was when I was going through it as well. And so it was a beautiful feeling, like, you know, hugging our families at the end, at least for me, wasn't the same it was when I first did it. There was a lot of like, you know, a lot of, I wouldn't say fear, but a lot of unknown, and you know, it was the first time experiencing that, so it was pretty uncomfortable, right? So now this is my third time doing it, and it's not as uncomfortable. But, you know, it was supposed to be the time of our life, and it ended up not being such, you know what I mean? And that was probably one of the hardest things to get over, because I had built this life for myself that I had wanted, everything that I ever wanted. I said, hey, you can go out and go get it, create the life that it is that you want. Mm-hmm. And I literally was able to do that. And then for it to be taken from me and wake up in a hospital bed with no legs, you know, it's like, I thought I was doing everything right, God, like why me, you know, that whole pity party. And I literally went into a pity party for about a year. No matter how externally I was telling people I was okay and I'm fine or whatnot, they didn't realize that I was super depressed, that I was addicted to opiates, that I've thought about killing myself. I didn't have any testosterone, and so I was going through it like I've never gone through before. And so it was an extremely difficult position, because as a Marine leader, and you know, as I feel as a leader in general, like you're supposed to give the presence of calmness, make sure that everyone else feels calm around you, even if the situation is hectic. And so that's what I felt I was doing, but internally I was hurting myself. I was shutting everybody else down. I wasn't asking for the help that I needed, and I was literally trying to create a burden that shouldn't have been a burden. You know what I mean? Like I literally wanted to do it all on my lonesome, and it was a lot harder than it should have been.
So what was that like? Was there a moment? Was there
I mean, it's a moment every day. Like every day I wait, I'm like, we're gonna do this, but at the same time, it's a humbling. It's something that I have to go through daily because it is, the same way people ask for my help. Like I have to be willing to ask people for their help as well, and it's a give and take relationship. And I think that's within life, within general, with any relationships that you have or whatever it is that you want to do. It's a give and take relationship, and so I mean, that's just really how I approached it. And that's how it kind of helped me out. I couldn't never just make it about myself. I always had to make it about something bigger. And so eventually, for me, luckily I found the sport of sled hockey. And that kind of even pulled me out even more. And it put me in an environment that, oh, by the way, I'm not in a team room anymore, but I'm in a locker room. And we're still making fun of each other. We're still willing to go to battle for each other. We're still willing to do the odd end hours of work where most people want to sleep in. I know he's waking up and doing the same thing I'm hating to do every single day. For what? Because we want to win gold medals and we want to represent the United States of America. And for me, it was like, there's nothing bigger than that you can do right now. And oh, by the way, God's on my side now. So now it's like, we're full speed ahead. There's nothing that can stop me. And so, with the whole purpose, with we are all one story, is it's a beautiful thing that when you can come across and you can tell people that and they can see that A, I was able to achieve my dreams, and B, I was able to go through a very traumatic experience, and C, now here I am trying to, not only give back to people that can learn from my story, but also, people that are going to end up being in the same situation that I'm in. I had a lot of help. I had a lot of friends get hurt before me, unfortunately, but also fortunately, because I seen where we can take this. I had a friend lose his legs in 2010 and he climbed Mount Kilimanjaro with no legs. So 2 years later, I have no legs. Like, yeah, there's that sense of unknowing, but I also can see the light at the end of the tunnel as well. And so,
And so, I don't even know. I'm very rarely at a loss for words.
I'm all over the place too. So I'm all over the place.
I honestly, I'm overwhelmed by this story.
Yeah.
I mean, this is incredible. So I got to talk with your brother, Jose.
Right.
So let's just back up to that part of this story for a second. So Jose, kind of, you mentioned you had the football gang decision. He kind of went the gang route,
right,
and then ended up in prison for a period of time.
Right.
He gets out, you get home, and then tell us about reconnecting and kind of what has led to this work you guys are starting to do.
I was in a position where I was transitioning again. I was leaving Walter Reed. I had finally finished all my rehabilitation, and I was on to the next chapter of my life. And in 2013, a year after I was blown up, or 2014, I decided to play hockey a year after. And so when the guys were in Russia winning the gold medal, I had told myself then, my next thing in my next chapter is to be a part of that. I remember looking at the TV being, I want to be a part of that. And so since then, my whole plan from then on was, let's start, connecting the dots to make this actually happen. And so, I had a lot of support, financial support, mentor support, all that kind of stuff was in line. And so my plan was to move to Denver, Colorado. And that was because there was 4 other members of the national team that lived in the area. And so they went from being, like I'm admiring with the work that they're doing, to now it's like, okay, now we're going to be teammates. Like, I want to get to work with you guys. And so my decision was to move to Denver. And at that time I was going through a separation / divorce. And so my ex-wife wanted to move to Seattle, and I was like, well, I'll go to Seattle if you want, but since it didn't work out that way, I'm going to Denver. And at that time I hadn't lived alone. I had a dog, and I was going through this whole process still, still trying to figure out life. And I was scared. I was like, I do need somebody to be around that can help with the dog, that can help with things that I needed help with. And so I called up Jose, and I was like, hey man, do you want to be my roommate? And the first time we did it, I think it was like, okay, yeah, whatnot. And the second time happened, I was like, yo, do you want to be my, it was serious. And it was literally like, he booked a flight, I booked a flight, we flew to Denver, we looked at apartments. The last apartment we looked, we said, yeah, this is it. We signed our lease, and that was it. you know, I go on my way back to DC, he goes on his way back to San Antonio, and we kind of finish out the last, you know, maybe it was a month left in our prospective spots. And so I began my road trip. And so I drove from DC all the way to San Antonio, pick him up in San Antonio, drive to Denver. And so that was the beginning of it. But, you know, the beautiful thing about it is that he was willing to say yes. You know what I mean? Like in the middle of his life, you know, he was in his own story, and he was willing to put it on pause just to help me out. He knew what I wanted to do, and he can sense it. And he could sense it the same way I could sense it in him, in the dream that he's trying to live. And so that's why it's beautiful to come full circle like that. You know what I mean? Like, he asked me, you know, in that whole process of even, you know, coming together, and then, you know, him choosing the gang route, and then coming this way, and then going through all the struggle that he went, and then for us to still be able to sit here and sit at a table and have that conversation, like that's strong, you know. It's there's no words for that, really. But, you know, winning a gold medal, so, you know, making the team and winning a gold medal, and then having your story thrown up on this pedestal, and everyone pulling what exactly it is that they want to pull from you, made me lose the value of my own story. Like, it made me want to give people what they wanted to hear. And so, you know, achieving your dreams, and then being in that same position, like, what now, and not having any answers, and, you know, people are pulling you the way they want, and losing the value in your story, still, you know, fighting depression all over again. You're like, man, I thought I caught my carrot. You know what? And he was always telling me throughout the process, he was like, you should go tell your story to this person, tell your story to this person, or share your story with these people. Let's go to the high schools and share your story. And I was always like very quiet about it, very like over humble about it. And it was because, like, I was more interested in other people's stories. I was more interested in how other people got through their trials, and you know, all the tough times that they had to go through, because I didn't feel like there was anything inherently special about what I did. One, I didn't give up. Two, I set a goal. And three, I just had people around me that were willing to support me and my dreams. And it was that simple for me. So when he approached me and said, hey, I want to create a platform where we share people's stories, I was all in. He was like, I need you to be the first person. He was like, I want you to be the first person. He was like, but then other than that, like, we're going to showcase another person's story every week. And in my mind, I was like, okay, so now I'm going to be a part of a body of work. You know, it's going to be a body of work. It's going to be a collective of stories. And mine is just going to be one chapter. It's not going to be everybody's like, let's look at this story. Let's look at this story. It's literally going to be, I'm going to look at this one. Learn from this one, learn from this one, learn from this one. That's what I tell people every time. Like, you might relate to my story, and you might not relate to this person's story, but I guarantee you they're going to give you a gem. You know, they're going to say something that you're going to be able to connect with, and it will change you. Yeah. And it's done that. It's done that for me. Every single person's interview that I've watched, you know, I've watched them all. They all say something that I'm like, oh, I felt that. Wow. I know exactly what that feeling is. And yet, they might not be talking about losing a teammate in combat. They just might be talking about losing their job. You know, they might not talk about losing their legs. They're talking about, you know, getting divorced. They're experiencing loss the same way. And so, you know, the more that we do it, the more beautiful it is to me. And then working, you know, just seeing the same kind of like light in my eyes that I had when I was pursuing hockey, and seeing the same light in my brother's eyes. It's like, I can see the good work that we're doing. Just the same way I saw the good work that I was doing when I was pursuing my careers, I can see it now, and we're onto something. Yeah, that's great. I read that, and it is our mission to help others remember and never forget that their story matters. Our inherent value as people, and the value in our story, in our own story. I mean, it's so true that everybody has a story. Life is just tough. You know, if you really, I mean, it's mind-boggling. But when you say that, somebody's struggle might be not
losing their legs
Right.
or something, but it might be, anxiety, depression, addiction, and I forget who I was talking with about this, one of our guests, but we were talking about the power of telling the story, the power of telling the truth.
Right.
Here's where I'm at, I'm struggling.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's okay. It's okay to not be okay.
Right.
Like, what if, that's what I think is a powerful thing about what you guys are doing is it's not all roses.
It's not.
You know better than anybody.
Right.
This is, but yet saying it and having it be okay.
Right.
To not be this, everything's great.
Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah. Yeah, because it's not.
It's not.
It's not.
And
there are
everybody's
ugly
doing
days.
it.
Yeah. There are ugly days. And so, I always try to say, try to turn your negative into a positive. Someone, there's a lot of veterans that lose friends in combat and then forget to live their life because they hold on to that and they hate themselves for it, or the survival's guilt and all that. And so I did that. I went that route, and it was going to lead to my death. It would have led straight to my death. And so I tell people I don't have the answers, but I know what doesn't work. And living with survivor's guilt doesn't work. At least it didn't for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so turn that into a positive. Okay, I lost my brother JP. What can I do now to honor his sacrifice? And that's live my life to the fullest. Absolutely 100%. It's not to sit in my room and drink beers all day and play video games and be sorry because I did lose him in combat. It's to live out my dreams to the fullest so that his sacrifice means something.
Yes. What do you think about our country after sacrificing so much? What is your kind of sense? And I think about it, especially the reason I'm asking, I'm thinking especially about young people.
Right.
There's no, we haven't had a 9/11 recently.
Right.
We haven't had some kind of a triggering event where we've kind of all stepped back
Right.
and said, okay,
So I think,
how's your perspective now?
So for right now, I think if people don't think they're resilient after this, I don't know what will make you feel like you're resilient. We go through a pandemic, we have racial issues going on, presidential elections and all that. There's a lot of things going on right now, and if you're able to manage, you're resilient. You have some resiliency to you. If you're not folded and you're not underneath the table, underneath the kitchen table, just
Sucking
waiting
your
for this,
thumb? Yeah.
you're resilient. And
Yeah.
I think people don't realize that, and they don't realize it within themselves that they're capable of a lot more than they believe they are. And as an American, like America is absolutely beautiful to me, even in its
Yes.
ugly parts.
Yeah.
And just like any other relationship, it takes day in, day out work, brick by brick by brick by brick. It's not going to be the most perfect thing you want it to be, but you can work towards it. And I think, a younger generation, they strive not only for perfection, but it's only okay if it is perfect. And that's not the case.
Right.
I've learned that through the 37 years of my life, because I've strived for perfection my whole life,
Right.
and realized that that's not the case.
Yeah.
And so I think if we just continue to work and, people realize that the secret is in the work.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing? Not one person can dictate how my life is going to change for the good or for the bad. It's the daily work that I put into it, what I want. If I'm putting in positive things into my dreams, positive things are going to come out. If I'm hanging around with negative people and I'm doing negative things, you're going to seek those outcomes. They're just naturally going to find you. And so there's no he's wrong or he's this, that, or the other. It's do what's good for you, like what you feel is right in your heart. Stop worrying about the next person, because I worried about the next person for the longest, how this
Right.
person felt about what I was doing,
Right.
how this person feels about what I look like, and rack my brain.
Right.
Just keep
That's exhausting.
It's so exhausting.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I was like, you know what? I'm taking complete ownership of my story, the good, the bad, and I'm going to tell you how I want to tell you. You know what I mean? Is when I felt that power.
Yes.
And that was going through our platform of We Are One Story, because he asked me questions that my wife never asked me. He asked me questions that my mom never knew the answers to. And it wasn't that I wasn't willing to not say anything. I just never heard anybody ask me those questions. You know what I mean? Like,
That's
what's the most
fascinating.
traumatic thing that you've ever been through? They automatically assume when I walk into a room, the most traumatic thing that I've ever been through.
Was this?
They
But it
would
wasn't.
think it was this.
Yeah. What is it?
But for me, it was losing JP in my
Yeah.
arm. Like, that was, I could have lost my legs and bounced back and been me. You know what I mean? But having someone lose their life in your hands, like, the humility that's involved, I say it all the time. Like, since that, like, I had to make sure, you know, my plan was to live my day with intent, you know, grace and humility. And that was it. That was it. Like, I had the intent now. Like, you can die right now.
Yeah.
Don't waste your time. Be grateful that you didn't die, and be humble enough to know that you're just doing what you want to do with your life.
So you're saying if he hadn't died
Yeah,
in your arms, your perspective going
It
through all
could have
this would have
changed.
been.
It could have totally changed.
You might not be here.
I might not be here.
Yeah.
I might not
Wow.
be here.
J.P. Hewling.
Yeah. And you know, and I lost 18 friends in combat, so that story is multiplied by 18 for me.
Did you really?
I did. And so that's the level of seriousness that I bring into it, because having brothers lose in combat, no matter how much that hurts for me, you know, and how much that hurts for their family, like, I hurt more for their family. You know, the daughters that aren't going to be raised with their father, the wives that don't have their husbands anymore, the mothers and fathers that don't have their sons, the brother, you know, they don't have their brother or sister. And so that was the pain that hit me with losing someone in combat. And so in my life, I have to make that effort to spend more time with my family, because who am I to not spend time with my family now? Like, it's hit me in the face, and it's not only happened to me, but I've seen it firsthand, to not take advantage of those situations. So now I have to spend time with my family. I have to pursue what I love, and for me, you know, it's give the glory to God at the end of the day.
This is an amazing story, and I said the same thing to your brother. You guys are like really thoughtful, well-spoken, like deep people.
I mean, you got to.
I feel like better about myself just hanging out with you for a
Dude,
few
you got to realize, like we were both down and out, and we couldn't even talk to each other in passing. That's how, like, I was in my own little hell. He was in his own personal hell. And we were literally passing by, and it wasn't until, like, the break of conversation started to happen, and he's telling me what he's going through, and I'm like, going through the same kind of things. I start telling him, then we start talking, and then, you know, we start working on the project, and so that opens up even so much more. And so it's not like just something that we think about once or talk. Like, this is what we do. This is us. Like I said, I've reached my dreams, and I've went through traumatic events, and, you know, in both positions, I was like, man, I got to figure something out. And this is what I love doing. I love helping other people. I love helping people chase their dreams. And when my brother talks about We Are One Story, I can see it in his eye. The same way I talk about, you know, pursuing my dreams.
You're going to go to China in 22?
Oh, we're going to be there for sure.
You're going to chase another gold
We're
medal?
going to chase it, yeah.
Well,
We're going to chase it for sure.
that'll be fun to watch.
And, you know, the reason why is because, you know, the first gold medal, I felt like I did it for everyone else. You know, like, I did carry that burden. Like, I was like, oh, I got 18 brothers on my back. They're in my backpack, and now I'm going to show the world what we're capable of. And so that pressure and all that, you know, I want to do it for the people that helped me during recovery and everyone else, never for myself. You know what I mean? And it wasn't like until this year I was like, or this go around for these Olympics, where I was like, you know what, we're going to do this for you. So I've been thrilled every step of the way, waking up, going to practice happy, because I know it's for me, and I made that promise to God. I was like, we're going to do this to the best of our abilities. And so waking up, I'm like, yeah, let's go. We're fired up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it's an amazing story. We Are All One Story is a nonprofit now?
Well,
It's informating?
we're trying. Yeah,
formulating?
we did our first year, and we said, let's just get through the first year, and then we'll figure out the rest. But yeah, we're operating as an LLC.
Ralph, it's amazing to meet you. Purple Heart winner. You sacrificed a lot. What you're doing now is incredible. We're cheering for you. If we can help you, we'd love to help you. As you guys launch this, I think it's a phenomenal idea, but just who you guys are is inspiring. So thanks for everything.
I appreciate it.
And thanks for
having
sharing
me.
with us.
Absolutely.
And if you can't get inspired by this, if that doesn't light your fire, your wood's wet.
I like that. I like that.
Is
Your
that
wood's
accurate?
wet. Yeah.
Your wood's wet. Unbelievable. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
We'll see you next time. Welcome to Good Life. I'm Dean Wilson. I'm so glad you've joined us. You can always go to goodlifetelevision.org where you can see all the interviews from the last year. There's been a lot of great guests, great stories, great people. So goodlifetelevision.org is where you can see them all. I'm really excited about my guest today. Joe Pasternack is with me, the head basketball coach at UC Santa Barbara, which is where we are here in Santa Barbara, California. So, Coach, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So you've been, this will be your fourth season.
Yes.
Born and raised in New Orleans. Tell us a little bit about kind of your upbringing and your family.
Yeah, I grew up in New Orleans, go back often, not as much as I would like. Probably the biggest thing I miss is the food. The New Orleans food is unbelievable, and you know, I went to Country Day, Metairie Park Country Day
Okay.
in New Orleans, played high school basketball. I wasn't very good, and that's why I'm coaching now and not playing, but I love New Orleans. It's a great place.
And you grew up playing basketball. You love the game.
Yes, grew up all my life playing. When I was like in the 5th grade, I figured I wasn't going to play in the NBA, so the next best to keep with basketball was to be a coach.
Nice. You have a fascinating part of your history as I was reading about you in terms of basketball junkies and the coaching profession. You coached around, I mean, you weren't really under Lute Olson, but Lute Olson was at Arizona, of course, before Sean Miller and the legendary Bobby Knight. What was Bobby Knight like?
You know, when I was 18 years old, I went to Indiana specifically to learn under Coach Knight to be a coach. I was a student assistant for 4 years under him, took notes every single day in practice of everything he taught, and it was the best 3-credit class I could take in college every single day during practice from 2:30 to 3:30 to 4:30. And it was just an amazing experience to learn how to be successful in life, whether with discipline, loyalty, work ethic. Didn't matter what business you went into, whether you were a coach, doctor, lawyer, businessman. He really is one of the most amazing leaders of all time in anything. And so for me to be able to get that experience was awesome. On top of that, to learn the game of basketball, how to teach the game of basketball. To this day, 20 years later, I still do Bobby Knight's teaching of motion offense and our defense and how to teach the game part whole, philosophy. And so it was an amazing learning experience for me.
Wow, that is amazing. I mean, what a legend. Did you get to spend any time around Lute Olson in Arizona, or was he?
I did. You know, I was at Arizona and Lute had retired, but I used to go to breakfast with him and pick his brain and just kind of learn different nuances of the game and philosophies from Lute as well.
That's wonderful. There's kind of there's a coaching fraternity, isn't there? I mean, is it kind of a network in the country in terms of coaches that develop friendships over the course of time?
Yeah, no question. You know, a lot of coaches really, especially over COVID, the past 6 months when you couldn't be with your team, a lot of Zoom calls with different coaches and just kind of picking brains of different coaches and learning different ideas and techniques and philosophies, and that's a big deal in the coaching fraternity.
Right. You got to Santa Barbara, I guess, 3+ years ago. How have you liked it in general? And I want to get into the results and kind of what's happened, but how's your family adjusting and how are you liking it?
I tell you, I've done a lot of traveling in the past, my whole lifetime. My wife as well, she's from Northern California, but for me personally, I've never been to a better place, a place that I would rather live the rest of my life than Santa Barbara. It's paradise. Everybody says it, and it just has something for everybody. But for me personally, I just love it.
Yeah. I think our boys, by the way, may play a little basketball together, from what I've heard. Joe, right?
Yes.
He plays on the Magic a little bit?
Yes, he does.
Yeah. DJ.
What's your son's name?
DJ.
DJ,
Yeah,
okay,
he's
yeah.
the 8th grader. Right?
Yeah.
I think they played a little bit.
Yeah.
2016-17, the year before you come, UCSB wins 6 games. Your first season, they win 23, which was tied for the NCAA lead in terms of growth, percentage increase.
Yep.
Tell us about that first year and kind of what's happened since and kind of where you think you're headed.
When we took over the program, there was no like projection of how many wins we could have. I don't know how to do that. You know, we really believe in honoring the process, really process driven. And when we took over in 2017, in our first meeting with our team, it was all about our culture, of how we wanted our culture to be on a day-to-day basis, our standards and our process. And we really, really emphasized every single day, honor the process. We were fortunate to get a couple recruits in that spring. Gabe Vincent, a kid on the Miami Heat, was hurt the year before. He came back for us, and lightning in a bottle, we had the biggest turnaround tied for in the NCAA history and had 23 wins. No one could have predicted that. But what it did was it gave us, I think, credibility with our players, our fans, and our future recruits that, you know, what we do works. And if you believe in us, you can come to UC Santa Barbara, get an amazing degree or a grad degree from one of the top universities in America, top 5 public university in America, live in paradise, and win a lot of basketball games.
Right.
And so from that point on, you know, it's helped us to build our program. In year 2, I think we had won 22 games. And unfortunately, in the conference semifinals, our point guard went down, DeVeryl Ramsey, so it was a tough break for us for that game, and we lost that game, so we didn't make it to the championship of the Big West tournament. And then this past year, you know, we were really on a great pace, and then we had won 21 games and then got to the conference tournament and it was canceled because of COVID. But we won three straight years of 20-plus wins. It's the most wins in a 3-year span in the history of the school.
Wow.
And so we're really proud of that, but we're not satisfied. You know, we came here to win championships, go to the NCAA tournament and advance. We have a great team this year. The past 6 months has been very odd, different than any 6 months in a college basketball career, probably,
Right.
where we haven't been able to be with our players. Everything's been on Zoom. This past Monday was the first time we've been allowed in the Thunderdome. We've been practicing
Really?
on a tennis court with Dick's Sporting Goods baskets, believe it or not. So, you know, it's going to be a strange year. And, you know, with our players, we have 3 rules. Lead yourself, protect the team, and no excuses. We can't control whether we're on the tennis courts for the past 5 weeks or whether we're in the Thunderdome or if games get canceled. It's going to be a very strange year. There's a rule: if one player or coach in your organization gets COVID, the team is shut down for 14 days. So that's all over college basketball. So there are going to be a lot of canceled games and a lot of strange things. But the teams that are going to be the most successful this year will be the teams that make no excuses and are able to be flexible and deal with all the different curveballs thrown at them.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're really excited about our year. We have 5 seniors. We have a transfer from Oregon named Miles Norris, who transferred from Oregon. I recruited him to Arizona. We have a lot of returning players that are really great players, great people. The thing we're most proud of is this last year, for the entire year, our team had a 3.0 GPA at
Really?
UC Santa Barbara, which is unheard of in college basketball, much less at a place as prestigious academically as Santa
Yeah.
Barbara.
Yeah.
So they're doing great on the court and off the court, and really looking forward to this year. Today actually is our first official team practice,
Oh, really?
and our first game is November 27th
At home.
at home.
Great. And well, I guess we'll see if there'll be fans allowed or not.
Yeah, you know, I think that's to be determined about fans in the stands, but either way, Jerry Pym and Jerry Fall have the video live of our games on TV.
Right. I was going to ask you about culture. I think maybe you just answered it with those three kind of mantras. But what is most important to you about the culture? I mean, I guess maybe it's those three statements.
Yeah, for us, those are our three rules: lead yourself, protect the team, no excuses. And we use that in, lead yourself is about whatever you do on a day-to-day basis. You got to go to class, you got to be on time, you got to go to your study halls, you have to stay away from COVID parties.
Right.
Don't have parties with yourself, you got to wear a mask. That's leading yourself, because in these times it's so crazy. All these teams are getting shut down right now, and we're getting tested 2 and 3 times a week. These guys have to be very, very careful of how they act and what they do. They're not just a normal college student that can go to parties and everything else, because we say all the time, what you do to everybody on our team. And so that's really important.
That's, really important this year. I grew up watching those 9 o'clock ESPN, UCSB, UNLV. Do you remember those days?
Yeah, absolutely. Big Monday.
The Running Rebels and the Thunderdome was rocking.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be fun to see, that kind of spirit. There's great spirit out there, but those were certainly great years
no question.
Of UCSB basketball. And maybe you answered this as well, but kind of my last question was, what is your hope for your student athletes when they leave the program? What is, if you could draw it up in terms of who they are, what they experienced, what they take away?
Yeah. We have a mission statement, and it's really a vision. And the first part of it is very simple, is honor the process. Being part of our culture at UCSB basketball is going to help you be successful in life. Number 2 is that you graduate and you get a degree using our academic resources. Number 3 is that we develop you to your potential and you have an opportunity to win a championship. And then finally, 4th is that when your basketball playing career is over, that we help you with our resources that our institution has to offer, our boosters, our alumni, to get you a job in the real world where you can be successful for the rest of your life. And being under Coach Knight, that's really where I learned of helping these guys for the rest of their life. And when we recruit them, we tell them, look, this isn't a 4-year decision, a 3-year decision, 2-year decision, or a 1-year decision. Some guys come just for 1 year with grad school, grad transfers. But this is a 50-year decision choosing UC Santa Barbara. You're going to get a degree from the number 5 public university in America. You're going to be associated with very successful people in the city of Santa Barbara, in the community, that will take care of you for the rest of your life. A great example is Leland King was my first recruit. He came as a grad transfer our first year. He was a first-team All-League guy, transfer from Nevada. He averaged like 15 points, 12 rebounds a game. He went pro, and after a couple of years, last year he called me, he said, Coach, I'm ready to go into the real world. Like, remember you promised me, like, you're going to help me for the rest of my life. And so this summer, one of our boosters set him up at UBS in Los Angeles, and the number 1 producer at UBS in Los Angeles got Leland an entry-level job, and now he's working at UBS, and his career is going to take off. And it's all because he chose UC Santa Barbara. He was successful as a basketball player. He got a grad degree from here. He got to play professional, but now he has an entree into one of the best financial firms in America.
That's fantastic.
And so if you say, like, what's my goal in life as a coach, what is my why is to prepare these guys when I have them for the rest of their life, how to be successful, how to honor the process and be self-disciplined. And then when it's time for them to get a job, that we help them get a job. That's how the best of the best programs in America do things.
Right. As you were talking, I was thinking about John Thompson.
Yeah.
Who just passed away,
Yeah.
as did Lute Olson.
Yeah.
Hearing his former players talk about him
Yeah.
was just what you just described.
Yeah.
They call him, he calls them 20 years, 30 years after
Yeah.
they're done. And he was like that. I mean, I feel
Yeah.
like he was kind of embodied that. And I'm sure Bobby Knight was probably the same, Coach Knight. but the players will run through a brick wall for those coaches because of the care I think that they get well beyond basketball.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. It's great to meet you.
Yeah.
We wish you guys a great season, and so November 27th.
Yeah.
So is that the Thanksgiving weekend probably?
Yeah.
Well, have a great season, and welcome to Santa Barbara. A little late, but thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Coach Joe Pasternack. We'll see you next time.